Got Wallace pulling in there to her parking spot, leaving quite a bit of room out. There she sees me. A lot of room between the front of her car and the curb there, but we'll give her a pass here. It's only her second show.
We are live, but we are also on tape. We are deeper down in the bowels of Leafs music. That's Jessica Wallace back for appearance number 2 on Kamloops last week. Jessica, how do you feel this morning?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year. Sorry about the accent you got in. It just sounded horrible, and I'm really glad that you're okay.
Actually, good news. About 2 seconds ago, I got a call from the tow yard, so my car is going to be in Kamloops by noon.
Well, I knew he'd be here. I knew he'd make it. There you are, Hermel. Rising from the ashes. Never doubt New Leaf Produce Market.
So good news to start the show, but let's cut to the chase here, okay? It's time to address the elephant in the room here. Your parents, and I talked about this on social media. That's Kevin and Teresa. They look innocent. They are really pulling the strings in Kamloops. It's not the Millibars, it's not the Stones, it's definitely not Dale Bass. Can you please admit to the fact that your family is pulling all the strings in politics, in business around Kamloops on the spot right now?
Absolutely not. I mean, we have teachers, we have mechanics, we're the lowest on the totem pole.
That's the perfect front. City Center Auto Service. I know what's going on. So does Mike. Mike, how powerful are the Wallaces?
Well, they're known as the Bloombergs of Kamloops.
The Bloombergs of Kamloops, the Illuminati. Did you ever work there growing up?
My first job, I was pumping gas when you still had the full service kind of experience, where you got tips and all that. They used to have their shop on 8th Street in North Kamloops as part of the Chevron gas station. I think back then smokes were $5.50 and gas was 55 cents, so that was maybe a while back. But first job, yeah, what was your first job?
I delivered papers, not very well. I used to dump them in the dumpster, which is a weird thing now that I write for these newspapers.
Fish wrap.
And my mom would deliver them for me, God rest her soul. I worked in kitchens a whole bunch. Cigarettes, so you knew the price of cigarettes. Were you selling those, were you stealing those cigarettes and smoking them at St. Anne's by chance?
I was not. I mean, I had heard of staff who maybe had done that over the years and sold them for a couple bucks a smoke or something, but I was not that
I
was not that entrepreneurial at that time, so no, I was pretty good. I learned customer service, maybe screwed up once or twice, but it was a good first job. Yeah.
Okay, 2021, let's not get into the details because it was not a great year for either of us. We'll skip that. But let's talk about 2022. Are you hopeful that this is going to be a bounce back year for yourself and for our city?
I mean, yeah, it's been a tough go the last couple years, really, but I'm kind of trying to stay on the optimistic side. You know, it's a new year, new opportunities, and I'm looking at this news story that was just in the news over the last few days, and I'm calling this the year of the pig. I don't think it's the year of the pig, but there's been this really significant surgery that's happened last week in the United States, where a genetically modified pig heart was actually transplanted into a 57-year-old man, and I mean, it's highly experimental, and for all I know, he's already passed away while we're talking right now. But he had it had worked up to the most recent news stories that I've seen. It's just such an uplifting story because you think of the potential and you think of all these people who are coming together to solve this problem for the greater of mankind. And I look at this and kind of go, hey, people are still doing great things out there, and we can work together and pull through and do some really fantastic things.
Cool. The year of the pig, you heard it here first. I hope they do brain transplants because I could use an upgrade here pretty quick. Okay, good show today. Dylan Garand of the Kamloops Blazers. Norman Kopec, who is he?
Yeah, he's a senior citizen of our community who passed away last week. Got a call from his daughter who notified us because he's somebody who contacts the paper and he's become a source of mine in the last few years. Moltomors. Just a really community-minded individual, grew up and lived most of his 85 years in this city, had a lot of stories to tell and takes with him a lot of Kamloops history.
A legend of Brocklehurst, so we'll talk about Norman Kopec in Wallace Watch. And live in studio today, Dave Moonen, president of Moose Lodge 1552. He has some issues with Dr. Bonnie Henry and some of the regulations that are in place. None of this happens without New Leaf Produce Market.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2022, and we could not have done 2021 without New Leaf Produce Market, our beloved title sponsor. There's Jen over there working very hard, one of the best employees I've seen in a long, long time. I talked to Herman. He says, Marty, make sure you pump Juice January. Well, Herman, your wish is my command, pal. Have a look. Maybe it's the pure apple. Maybe it's the pure pear. Do you like apple and beet? Maybe it's the pure cherry. Maybe you don't like juice. Well, do you like fresh produce? Because I do. Have a look at that. They keep it right. They keep it tight. They keep it fresh and clean at New Leaf Produce Market.
Oh, God.
Yes. Okay, so you didn't know this slide was coming up.
No.
Before we go on to Wallace Watch, we're going to talk about fitness here, but before we do, what was happening here? Foles doesn't look like he's doing too well.
Chris and I, so of late there's been some controversy with the city's move to transition from a bylaws department to community services department. The city says that the scope of the roles has changed, and the union would counteract that, and actually they're going to court here to determine whether they might need to flip back to the way it was in the new year here. But what happened here was some of the contention is around this new fitness test that was required of the officers that wasn't previously required. And Chris and I, this was Chris's idea, it was a great idea, had the idea to go and actually take the test to see if it was as difficult as people were saying. And
looks like it was. For either he had about 16 PBR the night before, or he's battling through that test and you're just powering through it. That's what it looks like from these pictures.
This is maybe a little bit of a, yeah. I passed, he didn't pass, so I will maybe just say that. But I think we both would have done better if it was before the pandemic.
I did choose a bad photo. There's another one of him looking strong, carrying something. Fitness, though, I want to bring that up because no limits in Anytime Fitness. I think they were the only two that were fined $2,300.
In Kamloops.
Why were they fined, and can you just fill us in on the latest with the gym and fitness stuff that's going on?
Yeah, so as you know, a handful of Kamloops fitness facilities before Christmas there decided to stay open despite the new public health orders requiring them to close to curb this Omicron variant that we've been seeing everywhere. And at first, you know, they've stayed open. They had people going there. They're happy to be going to the gym. But what happened was last week, maybe it was the week before now, they were handed their first fine. So Interior Health says that the enforcement is kind of a ramped up type process. First, they do the education. They give them warnings, and then they amp it up or ramp it up to fines, and then closure. We've seen in West Kelowna, there's a gym there that also actually had its business license withheld at the beginning of this year. So we're starting to see these gyms in Kamloops face some enforcement measures.
So do you know what's going to be next for these gyms? Are they going to start complying? Are they going to hold out and lose their licenses? Are they going to get fined more? Do you know anything more about that?
Well, one of the gym owners who spoke with me from No Limits Fitness said that they're going to stay open because they don't value profits over people. They maintain that their clientele, their mental health, their physical health, their well-being is at stake with the closure of these gyms. They say, you know, people who need physical therapy, they say that you know, people who have been sober for many years need this as their outlet. You know, it's been stressful during the pandemic. We need places to burn off steam. So they say that they will remain open and that their members will support them through GoFundMe initiatives and fundraising, and we've seen that elsewhere. And I think one of the GoFundMes I saw elsewhere, not in Kamloops, had about $16,000. So we see that members are actually supporting their fitness facilities in staying open.
Nice. It's nice to have that support for them. And I know Justin Grover a little bit. He's fiery and passionate, and it can be. We've had a little blow up ourselves, but water under the bridge. But he'll stand. I think he'll stand strong on this, and I think that'll make for some interesting stories as we go forth and keep on covering that story. Let's move on with this special intro video too to Wallace Watch.
So Norm Kopec, he was a Brocklehurst resident, longtime Kamloops resident, died last week in Vancouver General Hospital. He was admitted to RAH in the fall. He is a lung transplant recipient and had several complications from the fall into the new year. Got a call from his daughter last week who told me that he died of COVID-19. We found out after that actually he died of natural causes, though he did contract COVID in the hospital. You know, they've been talking a little bit about how they count the cases, and this is one of those interesting ones. What resonated the most was just how many stories they had about Kamloops and what it used to be like, and we've lost so many seniors during the pandemic, and I don't know if we've really talked about what's lost with those people who leave us.
Yeah, this is not like a hard news story. It's not a business story. It's not a politics story. It's not a Wallace expose. And sometimes it's just nice to tell stories of people in Kamloops who live lives like this and made a huge impact. That they're not going to have statues of them outside of City Hall or anything. But yeah, why did you think it was kind of neat to tell his story?
Again, he's just such a community-minded individual. He's kind of old stock in the way that he would maybe show up to a public engagement event. He showed up one time. I saw him show up at a budget meeting with a shirt kind of protesting the way that things were going at City Hall. He was just a no-nonsense kind of guy and with a lot of interesting stories to tell. I first met him when I was researching MacArthur Island at Kamloops Museum and Archives. And he just so happened, it was a coincidence, he just so happened to come in. I was sitting at the table going through the archives, and he walked in and started talking to the archivist about how he grew up in North Kamloops and, you know, spouting off all this information, and he wanted this and he wanted this, and he was very boisterous and loud in there. And, you know, he sits down near me, and I just kind of said to him, "You didn't happen to know much about MacArthur Island, you know, being North Kamloops veteran or resident or long-time resident?" And he said, "Oh, I grew up right across the street and on the farm, and, you know, I live right across from MacArthur Island now." And I'm like, "Oh, I work for the paper, and I'm doing a story on this and researching the history. Would you chat with me? This could be an interesting perspective." And he said, "Oh, I'll go over there with you right now." And sure enough, we drove over, and he chatted with me about how he used to skate on the slough in front of MacArthur Island, and how it used to be natural and also used to be a landfill at one time, and how it's changed over the years. And he's watched it. He had watched it change from his backyard, and yeah, it just provides some context from times where we weren't around. We don't know this. We can talk to as many people, but he was there as a first-hand witness 85 years ago. There's an 11-acre farm in the middle of Brocklehurst. You can't picture that now, all these homes. Picture apple orchards. Picture, you know, young men with bare-chested spraying each other with pesticides before they even knew that probably wasn't a great idea. Like, this is just an old, you know, it's a loss to our community because of the stories that he takes with him.
Yeah, I don't know if the pesticide spraying of each other goes on anymore. Bill Sarai was quoted in your story, which leads me to one more question. Civic election coming up. You're going to be all over this. What are you looking out for most this year? What are some of the storylines we can look forward to?
Yeah, so it's hard to believe 2018 was a few years ago, but it feels maybe like a lifetime ago because of the term that was expected and that did not become. We were looking at a PAC referendum. There was so much optimism with the new council, and then we got you know, a fighter jet crashed in Brocklehurst. We got a global pandemic, and I think there are a lot of councillors who are going to be saying that they want another shot because they didn't get the council term that they wanted. They want to see it through to recovery. However, there are some interesting storylines as well. You know, the mayoral race last time around, Ken Christian sailed to victory with 93+% of the vote. We're likely, I'm hearing rumors, though he hasn't announced it yet, that he might not be running, and that we could see potentially an interesting mayoral race between two councillors, Arjun Singh and Dieter Duty. That would be like a good competitive race. Other storylines, we're seeing issues of, you know, housing affordability, of course. The crime issue is probably going to bring out some law and order type individuals. I'm also expecting to see more chatter in the impending or the coming months online. I know that there are some people who run community groups online that are rumored to also be running, so we're expecting a lot of dialogue online.
With Ken Christian, is it for sure he's not going? I mean,
he has not said.
He has not said, and because you were kind of saying this when we were talking outside, that his term turned into nothing like he was expecting it was going to be. Like, he had to deal with all these, tragedies and disasters. So maybe is there something in the back of his mind that's saying, well, maybe I'll go for one more here and try to have a better luck this time.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, he said he's going to announce his decision in the first quarter of this year. So we'll see what he says. He plays his cards pretty close to the chest, but that said, it wasn't the term that he maybe wanted, but I have heard from people who have said that maybe this was the right term for him. He's a pretty steady-handed individual. He was a longtime interior health bureaucrat. The chance of him being mayor during a global pandemic was maybe a good thing for the city.
Peter Millibar floated Norm Daley's name on Twitter. I mean, maybe he was sipping back on Grandpa's old cough medicine, having some fun with us there. And or is there some truth to Norm Daley maybe being in the hunt there? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd love to hear from him. I called him first thing Monday morning to see whether he is considering a run. I have a feeling that he probably wouldn't announce a mayoral run via another person through Twitter, but I mean, we'll see. We're just coming into now, I guess some people call it the silly season. We're going to see lots of people putting their name forward, talking about issues in Kamloops, and it remains to be seen whether Daley will run.
I think we all know that your parents are going to choose the mayor anyway, so none of this talk really matters. Anoint a new mayor at the top of Mount Paul during a full moon. So that's Norman right there. He was also an original shareholder in the Kamloops Blazers, so I'm sure he'd like our next guest in the title of Hastings. That's Dylan Garand right there, one of the best junior goaltenders in the country, the Kamloops Blazers goaltender. Jessica, you have a connection. Well, you grew up in the city, you're a Blazers fan, but your husband also a Radio NL color announcer for a long time. What was it like to listen to him on the radio for all those years?
Yeah, I mean, I first fell in love with Jeremy's voice. We dated long distance for a while, and I used to listen to his broadcasts, and I love still listening to him on the radio when he gets into the booth there with John, and you do a great job too. Jerry's been doing that for about a decade. I think he's, with the pandemic, he was a bit disappointed the last couple of years because they had a pretty strong team and would have liked to maybe be a bit more involved that way. But he's hoping for a good playoff run here.
And he'll be paying attention to the trade deadline, which is going on right now, and it's very interesting because what are the Blazers going to do? What's Sean Clouston going to do? Is he going to be cautious? Is he worried about giving things away and then not having a playoffs to reap the rewards of what he gets back? They've got the Memorial Cup next year, so do they have to be cautious in that regard? And Dylan Garand is a perfect guy to talk to because, like you mentioned, he had 2 seasons that were robbed from him. He is in his final season, so he doesn't get that Memorial Cup run next year. So you got to think he wants to go all in this year in some way. Well, that's what I would have thought. I asked him that question in this interview right here. 2 potential championship caliber teams don't get to go to the playoffs, so you don't get a chance to go and have those big moments in the big series or chase a WHL championship or a Memorial Cup. Then you make the World Juniors team last year. No fans, still a cool experience. You won silver, but no fans at that tournament. And then one of your lifelong hockey goals, you make World Juniors, you're in line to perhaps be the starting goaltender, and then boom, it's robbed from you. So it's like the hits just keep on coming for you. I mean, what hurts the most out of all that?
For sure, definitely a lot of hits. I think kind of a lot of hockey players they missed a lot of opportunities, and I'm in the same boat. I think probably like you mentioned, those 2 playoff caliber teams that we had, and we didn't get to go through playoffs and kind of get that experience. Just that would have helped my hockey career a lot, win or lose, and that's definitely the most disappointing part for sure. But I also think it goes both ways. Obviously COVID's been tough, but for me, it's kind of helped me with the opportunities too. Like I got to go to the World Juniors last year, and then after that, I got to go play pro hockey for 2 months down in the New York Rangers system, where typically, without COVID, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So that's definitely big in my development. And then, like you said, I got to go to World Juniors again this year. Obviously, tough getting canceled, especially, I worked really hard to make that team and earn that #1 spot. And I really wanted to win a gold medal. So it's tough there, but it definitely goes back and forth. I think I've done a good job of making the most of it.
I know you're a player. I'm not going to ask you to put yourself in Sean Clouston's shoes, but you're also a student of the game. So how do you see the predicament that GMs, some feel they're in right now with COVID potentially maybe being a worry for them for the deals they're going to make, and then some feeling less worried about that and, maybe willing to be a bit more risky at the deadline. How do you see that predicament that faces all GMs in the league right now?
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. It's definitely, I feel like it's tough when you look back at, when I was 17 and we got shut down because of COVID, and, that's always a possibility now each year anyway. So that's definitely tough. I think for us specifically, I've seen, I think you asked Sean the other day about it. I saw on Twitter, it was like, we're definitely a good team now. And next year we're still going to be a good team. And, maybe we're hosting the Memorial Cup. So it's kind of tough to, I don't know, sell or not sell, but load up for this year when, we still got a shot at it again next year. So, I think a big thing that I learned, from my time in Hartford, actually, with playing pro hockey was managers manage, coaches coach, and players play. And, for me, I'm a player. So my job is just to play and focus on that. And, I know Sean will do everything he can and, what he thinks best for the team. And I definitely have full, trust and support in him. And I know he's going to do whatever it takes to help our team. And, for me, I just focus on playing, and that's kind of my job.
What's it like for you to know you're not going to be here next year, right? You're not going to be here for that Memorial Cup run. So, and given the fact that you haven't had that chance to see what you can do in the playoffs, and now maybe this kind of the team kind of being in a tough place with being able to make these deals that could help you this year in your last year. How do you hope it all kind of shakes down?
Yeah, I don't even know. I kind of haven't really even put much thought into it. I feel like it's kind of for me, a little selfish to look at it that way. Oh, this is my last year. Let's load up now and stuff like that. I think, whatever happens. If we make a big deal this year or not, then great. And if not, whatever, we still have a good enough team that we can get the job done with the guys that we got now. And like I said earlier, I just got to focus on what my job is, and everything else will take care of itself.
You can catch that full interview on YouTube. Just search Kamloops Last Week. I really enjoyed it. It's about 10 minutes long. We get into a lot of stuff. Blazers are going to play this week. They're going to be on the road in the States. The next time you're at a home game, though, and you're wondering, why is it not freezing here in this ice hockey arena? Well, you can thank the boys from Cold Control Mechanical, because they just finished putting a heat pump in down there on Mark Recchi Way, and they're the sponsor of our next segment, which is Last Week, This Week.
There's other people in the same business, so what makes you guys stand out?
We're cold as ice. We're primarily refrigeration contractors servicing the commercial market, heating, cooling, commercial refrigeration, gas fitting, kind of a one-stop shop.
Well, when you call Cold Control Mechanical, you're getting a personalized feel. You're going to get 2 qualified technicians. We both have our tickets. Who you call and talk to is usually who's going to show up at the door. So
if we can find a solution to your problem, we will.
We're both ambitious guys, and we like to get after it. And
I mean more like the jobs you guys have completed with Cold Control, who you're...
Oh, is that what you mean? Okay, we'll leave that out, eh?
Yeah, leave that out.
Yeah, I was like, that's an odd one. That's okay.
I don't know what you'll edit it and stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, we're here with Dave Moonen, the president of Moose Lodge 1552 in Kamloops. First of all, what is the Moose Lodge and what goes on at the Moose Lodge?
Moose Lodge is a non-profit organization. We're not classified as a bar, we're classified as a social quarters where people can come and relax, have a few drinks, and enjoy themselves. Mm-hmm. And on every Friday and Saturday we have meat draws, which raise money for charities in town here.
How has the pandemic impacted you guys? And you were included in the latest round of restrictions ordered to close?
Yes. Because we don't serve food, of course, we were ordered to close, which then we have to shut our meat draws down, and we can't raise money for charities. I found it very discriminatory myself, because I could go to any pub in town and have a drink. I don't have to have food. And yet in our lodge, where we come to socialize, we can't go because the government shut us down because of not having food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And well, there's a social impact too then on your members, I imagine. This is somewhere they go to meet and gather?
That's right. So a lot of them were upset, and this, of course, caused me to write this letter to the government, stating my concerns. I feel that we are being, treated very disrespectfully by the government by keeping us shut down, and not just our lodge, but the Legion is down, the Army and Navies are down. Mm-hmm. I believe the Lions Den has a canteen of some sort. They're down. All these different organizations raise money for charities.
Have you had cases? Have you had outbreaks?
Nope. We have never had an outbreak in our lodge. We've had some people that have gotten COVID, but they've got it elsewhere, and they haven't not come into the lodge to spread it around.
Have you heard back through a letter, through an email? Has Dr. Bonnie called you to give you some feedback on your...
No. No, and this is probably not the first time that you just get an email back saying, oh, we're looking into it.
Any final thoughts you want to end with?
I'd just like to see this COVID over,
Yeah.
You're the pig.
So you're the pig.
Yeah, I'd like to see this end. I mean, it's hard on people staying home. It's hard on I know that when we were able to operate, our club was full. People were coming, having fun, enjoying themselves. We were able to run our darts on Tuesday afternoons, and now that's all shut down, and you had to wear a mask. I mean, you could sit around and talk at a table like this, 6, 8 people, but as soon as you stood up to throw a dart, you had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It kind of didn't make any sense to me, in a way.
Logic's a bit off. Well, thanks for coming down and sharing your concerns.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
He makes some good points, and I wonder how Mike Moltomor feels, because I believe you guys have been affected here with the latest restrictions.
Oh, it's yeah, totally affected with our audiovisual company. All the concerts are shut down. Promoters are afraid to even try to book anything, so this is our deadest time, and when we dig into our coffers that we made money over the summer, and we didn't do that in the summer either, so it's challenging for sure. And we've got our guitar company to rely upon a little bit, but I can't imagine somebody that doesn't have that. And even then, it's tough for us. It's not sustaining.
Well, the beat rolls on. Before we wrap the show, let's check out the last week clique.
Wanted to touch on one really interesting story I have in the paper this week. It's about a Good Samaritan who helped stop a shoplifter at Mark's warehouse back on January 4th. The guy had a hatchet on him and was wrestling with an off-duty RCP officer when this guy stepped in to help the officer disarm the man and subdue him until on-duty officers could arrive. It was a harrowing experience. It was absolutely surreal for this guy, just describing how it all went down. Called the cops. Cops confirmed it, and they were very happy that the man stepped in to help out that officer and ensure that the situation ended safely and peacefully the way it did. Back to you.
Jessica, Michael with an interesting Good Samaritan story there. What are your thoughts on the hatchet story there?
Well, I guess at the beginning of the show we were talking about things that make you hopeful for 2022. This is a good person who was in the right place at the right time, stepped in and helped out. I mean, what more could you ask for? It's a great news story.
Any final thoughts on the show? You did a great job today for number 2. You're back and did a good job.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I appreciate all your guys' help as well. And I hope to be back soon.
Mike and Bonnie. Actually, I can't even bring Herman on the screen because he's still in the back of my truck. I'll fetch him today, and hopefully he's been guarding all my belongings. We love New Leaf Produce Market. We love Lee's Music, River Song Guitars, Mike, Bonnie, for Jessica. And speaking of hatchet jobs, next week Chris Folds returns, and we'll welcome him back to the show. We'll see you last week.